Welcome, people, to this battle report between the Morgok'S Krushas using the Voidcurse Thralls and the Cyreni'S Racers using the Force of Frost in this Nemesis clash here. So, it will be very interesting to see how the new warband Cyreni'S Racers fare against the tried and true Iron Jaw brutes of Morgok'S Krushas. Matthias wins the initiative here, but he lets me start. So enjoy the battle report. See you on the other side. Take care. Bye. And before anything else happens here, Matthias void curses one of his fighters, and that is Ardskull in this instance. So he always needs to have at least one void cursed fighter at the start of the round. In my first activation, I charge with Cyreni'S onto Thug, rolling 3 swords, but I get no swords. Sorry for the dice tray being slightly outside the camera there, but I'm gonna guide you through this. Freeze Thaw Finish is played by my leader, and I need a focus to cast it, and if I do, I place one available feature token in an hex, 3 hexes within the caster, and that I indeed succeed with. And I do choose to place the eyes, the block text that is, up, and then I can deal 1 damage to a fighter within 1 hex of a feature token. So I deal 1 damage to Thug, and after the power step I then also score Break the Ice for doing the first damage in the round. And in Matthias' first activation he uses Thug, since he's already there. Thug is rolling 3 swords for his attacks, but he gets no successes, sadly. But I, in either case, get to use the Phase Ink reaction of Cyreni'S to stagger fighter visible within 2 hex of him, and then place Cyreni'S on a feature token within 1 hex of no one's territory and at least 1 hex away from each enemy fighter. So I bamf him over to the other side. Quite an annoying little squid. Then Matthias uses a reaction as well, Cunning Brutality, to move, or rather push 3 after an attack action. And then the reaction chain ends. I then play Falling Shards to place an available feature token in an empty hex in no one's or your territory, and then I can give an ice counter if I have a friendly fighter within 1 hex of that token. So I place another blocked hex, and then I play Armor of Ice to benefit of that ice token, and then that means that Cyreni'S is actually a wizard, and very interesting, and has a defense characteristic of 2. And then, in my second activation, I simply move Cyreni'S to align him to make the Hammer Tide reaction in the next round. Since I had 2 available fighters to hit there, so at least one of them will be available. In Matthias' second activation, he moves Ardskull over to the objective and scores Now What for holding 2. Very well done. And then I place that scatter token with a hammer facing Thug, so I deal 1 damage and stagger Thug there. He was already staggered over, but he gets pinged for 1. And then I inspire, because it's the 3rd power step in the first round. Matthias then plays Brutal Attack for +1 dice and an extra ward counter after his next attack. Quite a good card. And then he charges with Morgok'S onto Cyreni'S with 3 hammers, 3 damage, and he gets a crit. I'm on 2 block now, but I failed to defend it, so I am down to my last wound, vulnerable on Cyreni'S, but still around. I then use Renglaith, since he potentially can do 3 damage on a crit. I get 2 swords, however, on Thug, and And Matthias rolls 1 hammer, so that's 2 damage, and then he very kindly reminds me of Thug being staggered, so I get to re-roll that for potentially getting that Grievous to trigger. But I don't, which kind of feels good when you actually forget it yourself. And then Thug charges up to Zephaniah to try to finish him off. And he rolls a success there with the support, but I get the crit, and then I can banff to the objective on their side, which is quite annoying here. So they spent 3 activations trying to hit Zephaniah, getting not a lot from doing so. And then Morgok's and Thug, I believe, inspired because they remove 2 wall counters from both fighters. And then Eager Advance is played on Morgok's, pushing him onto that objective and getting an extra wog as well. Then I flip that objective into a cover X with Zephaniah, stagger him as well in the process by doing the delve. Then he plays Enervating Form on Ardskull, so if I attack him I get a charge. And then in the end phase I score Ice Age for there being 2 more blocked hex tokens on the battlefield, and the ice melts at the end of the round. That's how the mechanic works. So I'm up to 2, and he's still on 1 in the end phase there, and at the end of the round I uninspire by the tidal mechanic. And then the second round rolls around, I win the initiative with that crit. I start with trying to finish off Thug with Rainlathe with an uninspired attack now, 2 hammers, 2 damage. But still that 2 successes there with the hammer and crit is enough to bring out of action. So since he's a large fighter with 5+ wounds, he's worth 2 glory. So quite nice change of events there. And I play Yaro's Frozen Bonds with my leader, which also allows me to place a feature token within 3 hexes, which I succeed with, and I place it next to Morgok's and Rainlathe, and then I get to put a move token on an enemy fighter within 1 hex of that token. So that's quite a nasty move there from me, and since he's so low in number of fighters, getting a move on one of them is really annoying. But he scores Gutted Boss for holding an objective off an activation at least, which he kind of remembered after the fact. Frozen to the Spot is played on Ardskull, so every time he moves he gets pinged for the duration of the round. Then he charges with Ardskull onto Rainlathe. Still only 2 swords though. I think this is actually his first attack with Ardskull. No successes there. But here, very sneakily so, he plays Unbearable Energies to ping an enemy fighter adjacent to Voidcurse fighters. So Zephaniah is finally killed. So had he actually landed that attack, he could have killed 2 fights in one go there. I play Frozen Heart on Rainlathe to try to save him there with buffing up his wounds. With playing stuff that gives me ice counters after this upgrade is played, but then Matthias plays Voidcurse Assault to do an attack with every Voidcurse fighter. So Ardskull attacks Rainlathe here. And since he gets a crit and hit, I can't do anything. And then that upgrade I just played comes a moot point, and I just don't continue playing the upgrades that had helped him. I instead play the Frostworm Cloak on my leader, so that means -1 damage if I have at least 1 ice counter, and I can also react to my activation with giving myself an ice counter. Then Matthias plays Thrallmaker on Morgok's, so after he deals damage he can Void Curse the fighter. Then I move my leader to kind of align him there with Ardskull. And then I inspire, because it's the second power step in round 2. And in Matthias' next activation he has to draw a power card. Since he's charged on one guy and moved on another one. And then I use that Hammertide action to ping Ardskull and stagger him. So I believe he has 2 wounds on Ardskull, one from the move action and one from the Hammertide reaction. Then he moves Morgok next to me, which kind of forces me to move away, obviously, because he can still attack. And then I just move my leader away. Just move him away to kind of save him from free swipes there with Morgok. And then Morgok moves yet again to be adjacent to Renglaith, having assist there from Ardskull. In the end phase I score Winter's Hunger for having at least 3 ice counters on a friendly fighter. I have 3 on my leader, with all those reaction to my activations. Matthias plays Searching Power on Morgok here, so he can either choose Grievous or Void Curse him, and he chooses the Void Curse, which might not be the best choice because that also makes his push action unavailable to him. Then I charge with Renglaith onto Ardskull in my first activation. In the 3rd round, since I won the initiative yet again, I get no successes though. I then play Soul Siphon Mantle on Alathir, so she is up to 4 wounds, so she's a bit more safe there from Morgok's threatening presence. And then I inspire, because it's the first power step in round 3. Matthias then salvages Seething Hatred for Thug, and in his first activation he charges up with Ardskull onto Renglaith. Still only 2 swords though. This is his second attack with Ardskull. 2 hammers though, quite unlucky with Ardskull here. But it is a pretty inaccurate attack, and I have support as well. Cyreni'S does the Hammertide action there to ping Ardskull once again, so he's down to 2 wounds now. And in the next activation Morgok charges onto my leader. I am -1 damage though from having ice counters. But he plays a brutal attack to do an extra damage by removing a wall counter. He gets a crit and hit. He could reroll as well with Boss Shoppas, but there's no need. I can't defend it. But he Void Curses me via that upgrade he played earlier, so I can't do the Hammertide action anymore, which is pretty sad. I play Great Wake on my leader, so after I move him I can push a friendly fighter within 3 hexes, 1 hex towards this fighter. This becomes very handy here. So I move all over there, and then I can push Renglaith to save him from Ardskull. Since both Morgok and Ardskull were charged here, he could have activated Ardskull again. So this was very important to me. Especially now also that Morgok can't do that action anymore to push Ardskull, for example, up onto Renglaith. He's kind of shit out of luck here. Matthias discards an objective in the next activation, and then I charge with Alathir, inspired, 2 hammers, 2 damage with Cleave as well, on to Ardskull. He's on 2 wounds left. I get no successes, but I have a reroll from Ardskull being staggered from that Hammertide, so that proved very important, that stagger now. And I get 2 glory for the kill, obviously, since it's a large fighter. Matthias scores though Surrendered Will for having at least 1 Void Cursed enemy fighter after an activation. So 8-4 at this point. And in the last activation here, Matthias just draws a power card, since he really can't do much. So if I would have missed that attack with Renglaith, Alathir, I would have had the reaction to ping an enemy fighter back with the spell reaction, since I made him her a wizard earlier, so that's why I moved adjacent to Archskill. Then I score Shield of the Grave in the end phase, 2 glory, and I also score Cold of the Void, so 2 dead fighters and no fighters being adjacent for those 2 cards. Quite strong cards, especially the first one is really strong, I think. 2 dead enemies is pretty simple, no other kind of things you need to do. Matthias scores Unceasing Imperatives for each surviving Void Cursed fighter in 1 or more warband to have move for charge. 1 glory. And he also scores Proper Rumble for 4 or more fighters being out of action or having wound counters. So that's another glory. So it ends with 12-6 here. I do believe that putting that move token on Morgok was quite crucial. That proved very, very decisive. And all the whiffs with the Archskull proved very decisive as well. And actually requiring 3 or 4 activations to kill Zephyr was also very crucial. So I think there were some key moments here that proved very crucial in my favor here. So hope you've enjoyed this one. Take care. Bye. This is Mats again, chiming in to thank you for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment, and to not miss out on future content, ring the bell as well. And if you really liked this video, feel free to click the thanks button just below this video. And if you want to support me even further, you can now become a channel member and claim the title of Critical Focus Fan. Until next time, take care, bye.